All right, dude. Well, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Hell yeah, man. Well, thanks for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This is Cheine on Podcast. I'm here with Cory Bray from ClozeLoop, the founder of ClozeLoop. So thanks for joining me, man.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you again. I know we had a bunch of conversations when I was a customer of yours at the last business I was at, but it's nice to talk to you outside of that. And I kind of want to dive into some of the things that you did to get this business off the ground. But if you don't mind, if you could tell everybody what Close Loop is, yeah, and just a little bit about yourself, and then let's just dive in.
Yeah, sounds great. So ClozeLoop is a sales consulting, training, enablement, and talent agency that works with growing B2B sales organizations to help them achieve their goals and fix the follies that they might have come across in their past. So that's the idea. And then we publish books too,
Hmm.
because we'll get into this with the origins, but I'm not going to charge you 30 grand for some words on paper like some people traditionally have. So let's open source this thing. Give you a whirl. You want to try it yourself? Go for it. You want to
Yeah,
work
I
with
like that.
us? Then that's cool too. Your choice.
I checked that out in your bio. I like that it says, "Why pay me $100,000 when you could spend less than $100 to learn what I could tell you in that time?"
Correct. Some people do it on their own. They do it great. I've had several people come to me and they say, "Look, we just bought your books. We ran it internally. If you have the bandwidth and expertise internally, do it. Roll with it. And if you're okay with it being the first or second time you've done it ever, that's cool. If you want somebody that's done it 100 times and have A minus A plus product 90 days later, then you can give us a call." And that's the thing. Put it on the customer. Let them choose their path. Don't force them down anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, that's kind of like the foundation of, I'd say, your sales process, and going through like the triangle selling and learning all about that. It was kind of nice because it's, from what I got from it, it's way less like force somebody into this situation versus give them the choice.
Yeah.
And it's was kind of surprising for me, especially as a non-sales person, to be in a sales role, to take that kind of approach and have some of these things work. Uh, I gotta say, I was surprised. I was like, I don't think this is gonna work, and then I tried it, and I'm like, God damn it, dude, that totally works. So,
Yeah. It's shocking that middle-aged adults don't want to be forced to do something by somebody they've never met before. Huh. Who'd know?
America.
That's funny.
Yeah, but so yeah, so how you said you've done this 100 times. So how long has Closed Loop been around? And then how did this actually come about? Did you set out to have a business, or did this come from, you did something at another company and the opportunity just kind of opened up? Like, how did this come about?
Yeah, so I was head of sales at three small startups. Not all of them were startups, three small companies. And what I found was that they all had the same problems when I arrived. I had to do the same things to get them to where they needed to be. And it just felt like a lot of work on your own on an island. And there had to be an easy way, because everything I was doing is around four major categories: strategy, system, staff, and skills. How do we get the right strategy for the sales organization? What market are we selling to? Who are we selling to in that market? What's the product? What's pricing? Kind of all of that strategy layer stuff. Systems, both business processes as well as tools that support those. Staff, who the heck's on the team? What's the role? And then how do we get more of them when we need them? And then finally, skills on the execution side. What do we need to do? What do we need to equip the team with? And how do we coach that and ensure that folks are continuously building up in the current role? And then there's internal promotion paths. Otherwise, people are going to leave. So I figured there should be a way that's way easier than one person in a whiteboard room trying to build it from scratch. And then I started talking to people at bigger companies. They're like, yeah, we just have this massive sales enablement team, and we do a little bit of stuff sometimes, and sometimes they adopt it and sometimes they don't. That didn't seem so great. And a lot of times what we found is that folks were just taking a bunch of different things from different places and trying to mash them together, Frankenstein plate of spaghetti style, and it wasn't working. So Hillman had been my coach at a prior business, and we said, why don't we just start this thing, and so we can create a repeatable process type package that we can just deploy into organizations, either small chunks at a time or a bigger program, and let them run it. And that's what we did.
All right, couple things here
Yeah.
because yes, as we at the last company, we definitely had those kind of take things from everywhere. Everybody's kind of doing their own individual approach, try to bring the team together, doing all this different stuff. And as you know, like you were working with Carl when you came on. Carl was, one of the first times that we had a sales leader that actually started really doing that in a way that helped our ground game.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, he kind of came into a situation like that where it was just a bunch of random things, random battle cards, things like this that yes, it's great, but as a new salesperson or somebody that's, just getting in the fight, it's good, but it ends up, taking you down this kind of path of ending up getting in that tit for tat with the prospects and you start battling with them instead of, looking how you can guide them through. So yes, I have been in that situation before, but you talk about starting with like a whiteboard. So when you did this initially, like how did you know to look at those initial things, and then how did you start building this out?
Yeah, we had a vision for what the end product suite needed to be, and it's super robust. I think at this point we have, I don't know, 110 products or so, and you can't get there overnight. Well, one of the things that we do and we've done is advise startups on how to go from 0 to 1. And 0 to 1 customers, 0 to 100,000 sales, 0 to million sales. And you always just look at what's your next milestone, what's the minimum that you need to get there, and how do you sell the pain and then deliver the product. So we just started selling the pain and finding companies that were struggling in certain areas that we knew that we could help with. And at that point, we didn't have anything that we could pull off the shelf, and we just go work with them. And we say, look, we can do this. We've done this before. We don't have a product off the shelf. So that was a lot of building things for them, building things with them in the conference room type activities. One of the best stories was we were working with a company that had nine people in the entire organization, and they were trying to figure out, is our product sellable yet? They didn't know. They had one person that was kind of a salesperson, but not really, just business development. Anytime a 9-person company has somebody that's business development title, they're not doing anything productive, in my experience. So we said, all right, here's what we're going to do. Told the CEO, the only way to test this to see if it works, let's turn all of your engineers and product people into BDRs for a month. And they're going to make cold calls. They're going to send emails. They're going to have conversations with people. We'll equip them with messaging, and let's see what happens. Well, it worked. And the engineers were able to get meetings for the CEO. They closed a couple deals, and we said, all right, let's bring in a real sales person who can be a player coach, kind of head of sales, etc. And he just started crushing and then scaled it up. So I just pulled it up on LinkedIn. That company has 134 employees right now. And what we did with them was say, okay, here's what you need today. Okay, now you're bringing in a person. Now you need this additional stuff. Oh, now he's bringing in some people. Now you need some additional, strategy, system, staff, and skills. It all goes back to that. And then just deploying specifically what's needed as opposed to going in and trying to boil the ocean. I actually own boileocean.com, BOYLE Ocean. It's going to be my alter ego consulting firm.
Oh,
Because
that's
that's not
great.
what people need. They need what can fix the pain they have today that gets them to the next milestone. And if you incrementally deploy that, then you're going to win. And maybe they're a later stage company that screwed a bunch of stuff up along the way and they need a bunch of stuff right now. That's fine too. Either works.
So why do you think a company with 9 people finds himself in a spot where they don't even know if they have a viable product to sell? Like, what is the mindset? What are some of the things that you've seen that get people down that path? And then what are some of the ways that you've been able to get them to think differently about being in that spot?
Yeah, it's typically technical founders that are focused on product development. And it's not a bad thing because these people usually build awesome products as long as they're going down the right path. You want to get user feedback. You want to build MVPs, ship them, iterate based on what actual buyers are saying. You want to get people to give you money because that validates that you're going on the right path. But sometimes that's not what happens. And these really smart geniuses build some really awesome stuff and they're unable to sell it because they don't know where to start. And that's the idea. And so we want to give them something that's easy to learn, easy to do, and then easy to coach and accelerate along the way. And that's on the early stage side. But same thing applies for later stage companies where everybody's doing crazy stuff and they're all different. Well, that's impossible to coach. So getting the teams frameworks that are easy to learn, easy to do, and easy to coach brings everybody together, gets them working in the same direction, and makes coaching, which is the most important activity in a sales org, much easier to do. So managers will actually do it because they avoid it because it's hard. So make it easy and they'll do it. That's just it's human nature. This has nothing to do with sales. People do things that are easy to do. Period.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So when you were in that spot, of going into that team that's mostly technical people, definitely not salespeople. I mean, I guess that's pretty good practice when you finally get to a team of actual salespeople to know if this stuff works. It's kind of a nice proof of concept. But where did you start with a team like that in order to figure out what they can do, building those frameworks for them, and then what have you done to kind of take that initial build and refine it? And how is it similar and how is it different to what you do today?
Yeah. Well, the foundation of messaging is an exercise that you're familiar with, where we go from what's the feature of the product, what are the benefits of the feature, and then ask the question, what pain would someone have to have today to care about that benefit? And by going through that exercise, you end up with pain points. And then you can extend that and say, okay, for each one of these pain points that we developed, which personas is it relevant to? Which market segments is it relevant to? What's the impact of solving it? And how well are we positioned to win against the competition if we solve that? Equipping them with that messaging, which comes out of a 2 to 3 hour workshop that we do with teams. Now they've got all their pain points that they know that they're looking for. Layer some conversational skills around how to ask those pain-based questions. Hey, Chris, we're working with other early stage founders who are concerned about revenue growth and they're struggling to maintain balance between product development and sales. It's not something you're worried about, is it? And so now I'm asking pain-based questions that can get folks to opt into things that exist or not today. Because I'm not trying to convince you have a problem. I'm just trying to help you uncover a problem that I might be able to help with. And then we can put you further down the sales process if that's the case. And it's very simple. Again, it's just easy to learn, easy to do, easy to coach. If that's the case, people will do it. Otherwise, we're just overcomplicating things with complex diagrams and math formulas and trying to convince people that sales is science, not science. It's a craft.
Yeah.
We're not doing square roots and binomial trees.
Yeah. Well, and plus it's so what's your thought on some of these things of, like hitting certain numbers and, certain activity and certain output and things like that? There are a lot of different views on this and philosophies. I mean, what are your thoughts around things like that?
Yeah. So salespeople can only control two things. They can control their quality of activity and the quantity of activity. And so the way I look at it is you want to optimize for quantity above a certain level of quality. So it has to be of a certain quality. And then from there, just step on the gas. And that could be one person doing the activity. It could be higher, scale, as long as you're seeing results on the back end. But you can't tell somebody, hey, Chris, I want you to close more deals. That's not good coaching, because then Chris has to go back and try to figure out what that means. The coaching conversation should be around things that the salesperson can control, which are only the quantity of activity and the quality of activity. And if we coach to those and we're smart about identifying where challenges are today and then helping people figure out how to address those challenges, then everybody's incrementally gets better. Results come, process drives outcome.
Yep. Agreed. And it was funny hearing you say that that pain point line, because I've deployed that one myself a couple times. And that was one of those lines that when you hear the response, you're kind of surprised that it works the first time, at least.
Yeah.
What's the general reaction when you come into places and teach people these different frameworks and things? Like, what kind of resistance do you get? And then how do you get a team to get past that and start to implement some of this stuff?
Yeah. The key is bridging the gap between knowing and doing, because if we all did what we knew, we'd be skinny, rich, and happy. And you've got to get them to do this stuff. And so a lot of traditional training fails because, hey, you hire, and unfortunately people still sell this model. You go hire a sales trainer, they come in, they teach your team a bunch of content, and then they leave and nothing changes. And we call that entertainment. 1 day session or 3 1-hour sessions with so-and-so. And then, we've done this with so many companies and here you go. And nobody changes. That's not how adults learn. So what we do is we leverage a framework called Bloom's taxonomy. And Bloom's taxonomy is an adult learning framework. It's got 6 levels. We're only focused on the first 4. First one is remember, second one's understand, third one's apply, fourth one's analyze. So we leverage ClozeLoop University to help people understand the content, learn the frameworks and all that type of stuff. So that covers the first 2 levels of Bloom's. And then you come into the session and we're focused on reinforcing that, applying it by doing role plays, and then analyzing it by giving feedback to other folks. And then for the clients that listen to us and buy call recording software, or at least just record their calls on Zoom or whatever and listen to them, then that continues ongoing. So managers can consistently coach individuals around the quantity and quality of activity, quality being the application of the frameworks in the calls that they listen to. And then you just keep getting better because you identify, hey, what's Chris's biggest challenge this week? Cool, let's coach him up on that. Boom, that's fixed. Let's go to the next one. Boom, that's fixed. Next thing you know, 52 weeks later, you're just an assassin that is crushing everything that you touch, and you're not creating unforced errors.
Yeah, and that quick feedback loop is pretty critical because it lets you see some of those things that you consistently do, some of the swings that you take and you miss on, or some of the times when you think you're swinging and missing, but you didn't even like really pick up the bat. You kind of picked up the bat, you didn't really go for it. And having that was pretty critical. And like even like you were saying, if you can get your books and read that information, get that for yourself, but listen back to your sales calls and things like that. I mean, that and being honest with yourself about it too. That was a very painful eye opener. It's kind of like when I write and make music and I listen back to my voice and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Can't unleash this on the world.
No, it's one of the best skills people can have is to be able to look themselves in the mirror and adjust. And if you can't do that, you're not going to get any better. So,
yeah, and it's a painful process, but it's something that you've got to do. I had to go through that just as COVID happened. I wasn't really selling that great, right before that, but I was kind of making things happen, doing a lot of travel. And then March 2020 hit and I only had one deal that closed because I happened to close it before the pandemic came. So, you know, yeah, that was a pretty rough time, and I even hired a sales coach at that time. He helped a tremendous amount, but I'd say one of the biggest pieces of that was because, uh, it forced me to really look at my process. Like, he was asking me direct questions about my demo process and, like, "You said this in your call, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, why would you say that? Like, listen back to this. And I
yeah,
think even that was helpful before we got to working with you guys, because by that time, I was kind of able to see what you guys were doing and avoid some of that pitfall that I think a lot of salespeople that are struggling fall into, of hoping that you're going to be the gospel and that you're going to basically like deliver them from sin, whatever they're like, whatever the version of that is. Because really, it's just a useful framework to help you move forward. And what I got out of it was being able to just identify these different things that pop up in almost every conversation.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and just following those frameworks and using like the resources and scan, all that kind of stuff was nice for me because I already, was coming to it with some sort of past training, not hoping that you guys were going to sell for me. Um, I mean, do you see a decent amount of people that try to rely on you guys to sell for them?
no, because I don't talk to prospects. So, this is you. You're the subject matter expert. We can equip you with frameworks that work, and then it's on you, and then work with the managers to ensure that coaching's happening. And then, well, let's throw out something. Some people that don't know what we're talking about here, and they might say, "Oh, this is too abstract." So here's one thing that can be helpful to everybody. As you're listening to your recorded calls, just be ready to ask, why am I talking about the product right now? Because how often do you actually need to talk about the product, Chris?
Not very often.
Not very often.
Not until you're pretty late in the game.
Yeah, totally. So I that's one of the biggest mistakes. And again, without going into any of the things that we're talking about now, a simple takeaway for anybody is just ask, why are you talking about the product? You never need to talk about the product in a cold call. Very rarely need to talk about it on a discovery call. And even during the demo, talking about the product is often a trap for folks. And the best demos are using the product as a background to facilitate conversation, but it's not talking about it does this, it does that, it does the other. It's talking about the solution to pain that's already been uncovered, and then continuing to do more discovery for different stakeholders inside the business, and then create velocity to close or disqualify as fast as you possibly can, because spending times with losers is not how you hit your goals.
Agreed. Well said. Yeah, I remember that one time I was trying to demo you, and I started, and you just like, hey, stop. That whole minute that you spent, you can sum that up in one question.
Yeah.
And that drastically changed how I ran things. But it does take it from that prescribed nature of, telling a 30, 40, in my case, 50, 60-year-old man what they should be doing and how they
Yeah.
should feel about something. Being a 27, 28-year-old, it's not the best route.
Yeah. No. And this is where things like Challenger just completely fall down inside of organizations, because
So how so?
has its place, definitely has its place. If you've been in industry, you're an expert in the industry, and you can credibly challenge somebody, rock and roll, do your thing. Super advanced concept for somebody that doesn't have the credibility to do that. And that's where uncovering pain and being able to demonstrate how we've solved that pain for other folks in the past, that gets you deals. You don't need to go in and have some bravado and discuss how you're going to revolutionize somebody's business and all, and teach them a bunch of new things. You can do that. But if you're running a team and you got a bunch of people and you're trying to get everybody swimming in the same direction, rowing the boat in the same direction, what pains do you solve for who, in which market segment? Equip them with the questions to go ask to uncover if they have that pain or not, and then be able to demonstrate how you solve that pain for other people like them. Decision. Yeah, there's some resistance that pops up along the way. Sure. Some other resources you need to uncover, political resources, financial resources, technology integrations, things like that. But this is not rocket science. And anybody trying to convince you it's rocket science has ulterior motives. That's my opinion.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Agreed. Well, hey man, if we can switch gears a little bit, I want to talk about where the transition happened from doing this at other companies to actually starting this business. And then where is there like a specific moment that you can recall where you were thinking like, oh, I can do this?
Yeah. Yeah. So the transition was, so I was head of sales at this company. Funny story. So my buddy went to college with the founder, to law school with the founder. So I go work there. And when I interviewed and everything, they had 12 logos on their site. I'm like, oh, those are good logos. This company seems to be going pretty far. Yeah, I crushed the interview. And here's why I crushed the interview, because I spent, between my first and second interview, I spent 3 days, spent an entire long weekend pretending like I had the job. And I put together all the things that I had done during my pretend I had the job, sent it to the founders in advance of my second interview, showed up and said, here's what I do in the first 3 days working here. I actually carved out 3 days and did this. And then they hired me because nobody else does that. So if you really want to get a job, do stuff like that. You should also read Hiring, Onboarding, and Ramping Salespeople. And so I go work there. And then the second week of work, they get a cease and desist letter from one of the law firms. And then they get 2 more, because apparently none of those law firms were actually clients. They didn't have any clients. And so I didn't think to fact check their website, but I guess that's a smart thing to do if it's a Series A company. Yeah, I worked there, sold a bunch of stuff, got budget to hire sales team, hired sales team. And then one of my salespeople 3 weeks in said, I'm never going to be able to make it at this company. And I said, why? And then he made the astute observation. He said, well, they didn't name this guy Chris. He said, well, Chris is a exact target user for us, right? And I said, yeah. He said, Chris went to law school with the founders of the company, right? I said, yeah. He said, Chris is your friend from back in the day, right? I said, yeah. He says, Chris doesn't use our software. It's like, ooh, touche, salesman.
Good point.
So at that point, I said, all right, this ain't going to work. I'm out. Because it's a product problem. I mean, product is funny. I worked there for a little over a year. Product got worse from my first day to my last day because they hired this cuckoo VP of engineering who was actually looking for an engineering manager job. And this dude just rewrote everything, because this is what people that are looking for job preservation do in the technology world. If you get somebody that comes in and wants to rewrite the product, that's just the biggest red flag in the world. They're just trying to pull a salary for a year. And then this guy, oh, this is funny. This guy pulled the biggest power move I've ever seen. So he got a puppy and then claimed that him and his wife needed to split puppy duty so he could only come in the office half time.
Wow.
Like, how do you fall for that?
Did he get puppy permission?
Yeah. And then he would do hilarious stuff. So this is, he would ship code at 5 a.m. and like brag about how early he was up and then just not be in the office all day. So that was fun. And then this dude that he hired, this was really funny too. So this dude that he hired, turns out, okay, so every Zoom call that this guy was on, he'd have his baby on his lap. And he had at least 2 full-time jobs. We think he might have had 3. And he would just tell all of his employers that he was just slammed with the baby so he couldn't make meetings. But he was actually working 3 jobs, and turns out that, or 2 jobs for sure, maybe 3. And this wasn't the first person. I know 2 people that have done this. I don't know them. They're not my friends. I've worked with companies that have hired these people. So anyways, that was hilarious. All right. So then fast forward, I said, all right, what am I going to do next? I'm a big fan of quitting your job if you just don't want to work there anymore. So I just bounced. I was like, all right, I'm out. And they said, will you stay till whatever date? And I said, sure. You know, it happened to be the Christmas party. So I was like, I like Christmas parties. Those are fun. So I was like, I stay till the Christmas party. And then I said, let's try to take this idea of a sales organization build and automate it with software. So I started working on that, got some people to write some code, hired some people, raised some money, whatever. And then found that I'm not really good at managing engineers and building software products. Found that out after I lost everything. More to come on that in the future, but yeah, I got smoked on that deal financially.
Yeah. What do you, so wait, so this was before ClozeLoop?
Yeah.
You were trying to build some sort of like software system?
Yeah. So we spun up an entity and tried to build some software. That didn't work. I got financially smoked on that deal, but that's fine. Good learning lesson. So somebody doesn't have a 401k anymore, but that's cool. That's a problem for old me to worry about. I ain't worried about it right now. Yeah. It's so funny because I'm sure so many people are squirming, right? They're like, oh my God, Cory put his 401k into a software company. Yep. Whole thing.
I take risks. I moved to Nashville on a whim. I don't care.
Totally. So then, and then we said, all right, this isn't going to work. One of the engineers quit. Then the other engineer quit. I was like, okay, well, nobody's writing code, and I sure as heck can't write code. I did get a 4 on the AP1 computer science test, though. So that's a fun fact. They hated that because I'd be asking questions about architecture and throwing ERDs and talking about, I don't know, functions. Apparently functions are called methods now. So who knew?
The world's moving on.
And so Hillman and I were talking about this. We said, well, we're trying to be cute and build a software company and charge $20 a month. And then we're giving away tens of thousands of dollars of free consulting services to make the software work. So we shut down the software business and started this consulting business. And then we said, let's just go out and deliver things that we can deliver. I don't know, 4 months into that, we landed a nice sized global contract with a small public company and just kept building from there.
Hell yeah. So basically like almost like an enabling contract.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's the thing, man. And then you just build as people need things. So, hey, guys, can you help us hire some people? Yeah, sure. So let's write job descriptions for AECS and SDR. Cool. Now I've got those things on the shelf that I can pull off anytime anybody else wants it. Somebody's wanted to oh, this was funny. So one company was struggling with onboarding. And they said, well, we're concerned people aren't ramping fast enough. and we're anxious that internal promotions are failing. I was like, cool. So I can help you guys put together an onboarding program. They said, how much is that going to cost? I don't know. I might have said something like 35 grand. I don't remember what the price was. It was something like that. And they said, oh, we can't do that. Can you do it for 15? It's like, no. I said, okay, cool. Thanks. So then I was pissed because I don't like losing, but I also don't discount. So these things, you know, they're diametrically opposed to each other. So I go sit at home and I call home and I say, hey, I just DQ'd this deal because they wouldn't pay the piper. I'm going to go write a book on it. So I took what I would have done for these guys, and I guess I could have taken the 15K and just called it R&D, but I don't discount. So we didn't do that. And so I just wrote the outline for the book that became hiring, onboarding, and ramping salespeople. I was focused on the onboarding and ramping, and Hillman already had a lot of frameworks around the hiring piece. And then that's how that book came to be, because some guy was being cheap. And guess who still doesn't have an onboarding program? That guy. Well, he left. It's another guy. I guess I should hit him back up and be like, hey, that other guy, name withheld, decided this wasn't important. Are you concerned that people aren't ramping fast enough and anxious that internal promotions are failing?
That's not something you're dealing with, is it?
Boom. Let's ask. Yeah, actually, I'll do that. Yeah, let's sell some stuff. See, Chris is great. He's a sales enabler over here. He's reminding me of things that I should go prospect.
Yeah, this is a sales enablement podcast, but I'm taking more of the traditional approach where I'm just going to tell you things, and then I will end this recording and not help you any further than that.
That's hilarious. Well, yeah, and that's one of the things that is challenging with being a business owner is you got to build product, you got to sell stuff, you got to deliver it, and then you got to deal with the admin BS that comes with business ownership. So you're not always focused on, oh yeah, I lost that deal a year ago. But I have 2 salespeople now full time. I'll just give it to one of them. They can get a commission. I don't care. I love paying commission. It means I made money.
It's ultimate testament to what you do.
Yeah,
it's
totally.
kind of cool. It's flipping the script on what you always would look for is getting your commission payments and now being able to pay that out to somebody else. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, totally.
Hell yeah.
That's great. It's like, oh, you made a lot of money. That means we all made a lot of money. Let's roll. Yeah, and I pay them a lot. I also pay them on lifetime value because I think that's the thing that people get jerked around on in software companies is they get paid on the first deal. And then, well, if let's say that a software company's exit multiple is 10x revenue. So if they're doing 100 million in revenue, it's $1 billion company. Yeah, that's for a more mature company. These days, it might be 20 or 30x for some of the faster growing ones, but let's just use that number for example.
Sure.
Well, if there's a 10x exit multiple on revenue, that means if little Tommy sells a $10,000 deal, he created $100,000 in value for the company on that 10x multiple. And a lot of times, he'll get like 10% commission. So he gets $1,000 in commission for creating $100,000 of enterprise value. So I pay lifetime value commissions to our salespeople, and then it's pretty funny.
Okay, so how do you do that and do that and make that work financially? As much as you can kind of disclose on here, but like how do you make that work? What is that like?
Yeah, you just manage your cost structure, and here's the thing: if you don't pay on that, then who's responsible for renewals and upsells and things like that? Then you hire another person, pay them a base salary, and now I got 2 people managing the same deal instead of 1. And I think that a single point of contact is more valuable. You can build a relationship. I always say that in sales, you don't need a relationship, you need a rapport. But if you're managing a deal with somebody for 3 or 4 years, you'll develop a relationship, and that's good.
Yeah. Why is rapport more important than a relationship?
Is a rapport leads to trust, and that's all you need. You need to find somebody who has pain. You need to find somebody to trust that you can solve that pain for them. And that's it. You don't need to be invited to their softball game. You don't need to go to their wedding. You just need them to think that you have at least their interest in mind, or that you're not trying to do something sleazy. And then you can win deals.
Yeah. That's an interesting take on paying people that lifetime value, because that is something that you do see at a lot of companies when you get paid on that initial deal is kind of slinging bullshit through the pipeline for the sake of closing the deals. And one thing that we used to do at Flight Docs that I think was good, and it makes it slightly more painful as a salesperson, but you don't get paid until you don't get paid commission until that invoice gets paid by the
Oh
customer.
yeah. Yeah. I think
Because
that's smart. We do that too.
yeah, because I mean, I've had 60, 30, $60,000 deals close, and it's like, oh, great. And then it gets held up in a back end process. 2 months after signing, you find out that this person can only do a tier 43 T12 security encryption, and you only have T 41.136. And
Yeah.
sorry, we can't do business.
Yeah.
And that always sucks.
Well, I don't get paid late. Nobody pays me late. You know why?
Why?
Because I put a line item in my contracts that says late payments are subject to a $250 per day late fee. And accounts payable and finance folks get smoked if they pay late fees. So
Really?
I send over one message and say, hey, just a reminder, it has a $250 late fee. I'm waiving it up to tomorrow. I've never got paid late. Nobody pays me late. It's awesome. And
Hell
you know
yeah.
what? Some people are scared about it, so they pay me early. Like I just sent an invoice out yesterday for $25K for part of a project, and they already paid this morning. I was like, oh, cool, thanks.
All right, dude. I'm writing this down.
Yeah, you're not a bank, man. Yeah, hey, everybody, guess what? Small business owners, we're not banks. So if you agree to pay during a certain period of time, that's cool. I'll give you 7. I'll give you net 7. I'll give you net 14. I'll give you net 30. I don't care. Frankly, booked revenue to me is booked revenue. I always spent my growing up years in Kansas and Texas, and I believe that a handshake and somebody's word is worth a lot. And I don't think people are there jerky around. But at the same time, I know the person that signs my contracts, not the person that initiates the ACH transfer. So I'm not going to tell you have to pay in advance.
Sure.
I never do that. Some consulting firms are like, oh, we won't start the project until we receive down payment. Whatever. That's the person that I'm working with is not the one that's sending the ACH. So why hold up the project for semantics? I just trust that people are going to pay me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's part of the sales process too of going through this stuff. If you vet it out properly and you kind of disqualify where you need to, and you make sure that what you're about to do for them is actually what they need to do, you're probably going to eliminate that potential situation maybe 9 times out of 10, maybe more.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's do another little shift here. I know we're kind of coming up towards the end of our time here, so I want to be respectful of that. But
Yeah, I got a hard step. I got to go sell some stuff here in a second.
all right, hell yeah. So, I want to talk about 212 Angel. So,
Yeah.
what is that? And yeah, what is that?
Yeah, it's an angel investment fund that is started by a couple guys. One of them I've been friends with for 6 or 7 years. And what their vision is to invest in seed stage deals and be the most valuable investor on their cap table. And the way that they do this is push value towards the organizations they invest in. I think one of the challenges with the investment community and founders is that everybody says, "Oh, we're more than money." And funds say that they're more than money. And the way that they position that is either, hey, we can help introduce you to talent, or we can help introduce you to customers. And the founders that we talk to have consistently been burned by that. Yeah, they never really helped. They flipped over a couple of people they knew that were looking for jobs. They got us in front of a couple of customers, but it wasn't the right ones. It wasn't the right timing, so it never went anywhere. Well, with this, each company that gets invested in gets access to an executive CEO coach. They get full access to ClozeLoop University. We have office hours with the portfolio. They can schedule one-on-ones with us. And the goal on our end, Hillman and I, is to mitigate sales execution risk. When you're a startup, when you're a seed stage company, you got market risk and you've got technical risk and you've got sales execution risk. Those are kind of the three big buckets that we look at. So market risk is there an appetite for this? Can I get to where I have product market fit? Technical risk is, will this thing physically work? is every, is it, remember Netflix started as mailing CDs to people because they were betting that Moore's law was going to continue to progress, where the compute power doubles every 2 years or every 18 months or something like that. And they said eventually video streaming is going to be a thing. So let's get our infrastructure all set up. So when it is, we can flip the switch and just put Blockbuster out of business, which they did. So that's on the technical risk side. And then on sales execution risk, a lot of these folks have never sold before. I love working with technical founders. We got one, and I can't remember. She either went to Harvard or MIT, has an engineering degree. Hellman told me the other day, she executes triangle selling better than anyone that he's ever seen. And this was 3 weeks after she learned it for the first time, because it's a system, and people that are systems thinkers that are really, really, really smart and are completely focused on making it work just crush. It's fascinating. So equipping them, those early stage founders, with the sales frameworks and skills that they need to push forward. And then also on the, we talk about skills, the other 3 S's that we frequently focus on: strategy, systems, and staff. We help them on those fronts too. So they get all access. Once they raise a Series A, they have to start paying us. But up until then, our agreement, our partnership with 212 covers that for founders. So any early stage technical founders that are trying to really figure out sales, if we invest, then they get that package for free, which is pretty cool.
Hell yeah, dude. That's a critical piece of this, especially as I'm starting out my own business, is kind of a reminder of, I have to get back into that salesperson mindset. And I've been out of it for about 5 months now. And I'm glad we had this conversation, because it's reminding me, okay, I got to get back into that mindset of what my processes were, how I had this like fundamentally set up. And
you need to get a copy of this.
Oh, you mean the sales playbooks, the builder's toolkit by Cory Bray?
Send me your address. We'll get you one.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Great. Yeah. Cause that's it, man. And that's what I was talking about a little bit ago. As a founder, you've got so many things going on in sales. Even if you're a sales focused founder, it's still only 50% of your time. Maybe there's just other things you have to do. And it's a beautiful thing once you can get those first salespeople hired, but you can't justify it until you've actually been able to do it yourself. You can't outsource sales. It doesn't work.
No, I'm realizing you can't really outsource almost anything that you want to get done, to start. I'm in this spot of like, I just almost can't do it. I need to know how to do it, even if it's rudimentary, and then focus on scaling. But
yeah. Well, and the good news is all those dorks on the internet that tell you if you work more than 40 hours a week, you burn out, have never been a founder before, because what they don't realize is that, one, you can't do that. Otherwise you're just done. But the second thing is, you don't get burnout from working more than 40 hours a week. You get burnout from doing the same stuff that you don't like for more than 40 hours a week. So as a founder, you've got lots of, okay, I'm going to go work on product for a little bit. I'm going to work on ops, going to go to happy hour. I'll come back home and do admin. Woohoo. Oh, and by the way, while I'm at happy hour, I'm doing sales. And that's the idea. If you can chunk up your day and really leverage some time management principles, sleep in on Saturday till noon, like I like to, wake up, clear your inbox, crank out some new product stuff, and then do whatever you want to do. And then Sunday night prep, you can comfortably work 60-hour weeks without it feeling any different than working a 30-hour week at something that you don't really enjoy.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
There's 168 hours in a week, by the way, for those keeping track of. For those keeping score at home, there's 168 hours a week.
Well said, sir. Yeah. Well, hey, man, I want to let you get back to making some money and making some sales. So, dude, thank you for coming on and doing this. I really appreciate it. This was great, and I'm taking this as a little bit selfish win for me. That just a reminder that I need to get back on my sales game. I will definitely accept your gift of your book. I got to go back to my notes that I took closing in on a year ago when we started this journey together. But yeah, thanks, man, for doing this. And so just as we're wrapping up, where can people find you? Where do you want people to check you out?
I'm on LinkedIn. I don't know what I think my URL is something sassy, like /buy triangle selling. But if you just type my name in CORYBRAY, I'm on there.
Yeah, you've got a very entertaining LinkedIn. I like going on there. It's you like poking the bears.
Yeah. Well,
I can
I like saying things that other people won't say because I don't have a board or a boss or a wife to tell me that I'm not allowed to do things. I'm like, I just do whatever I want.
hell yeah, brother.
Let's go.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, Corey, thanks for doing this, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Great seeing you. Great catching up.
All right, you too. All right, thank you for listening, everybody.